Before we start talking about software, I want to talk a little bit about recording studios. I am not anti-recording studio at all. I've been in many recording studios. They're fantastic places. In fact, I highly recommend you book at least one session in a recording studio so you can actually see the real gear in person. They're a dying breed. They don't exist in every town anymore. They don't make that much money. Most people prefer to record at home. Some people might romanticize the idea of, like Queen going, if you saw the Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen biopic, they went into the studio and just recorded their whole album in one session. Sure, okay, that's how it used to be done, but it's not the same thing anymore. They were backed by a record company and that paid them in advance to make their album, and that's how the record business works. You're not backed by a record label, you don't have that money, you're not going to spend all that time in a recording studio, especially if you're just working on ideas and you don't really have the reason to go into a recording studio yet. Recording or composing or creating or producing music by yourself is a much better alternative. I highly recommend, if you live within an hour or so drive of a recording studio, give yourself a gift and book out a day in a recording studio. It's an amazing experience. The things you're going to see in a recording studio that you won't see generally in anyone's home studio are soundboards, like all the ones you've seen in all the old pictures of the guy at the big soundboard, everybody standing back, the producers and the mixing engineers got his hands on the faders. They're so cool. Like, just go see one and touch one and enjoy the experience of having that right in front of you in the real world version. Also, if you have a nice mixing engineer, they'll probably go through some of the vintage gear with you that they have on site. Usually recording studios have a pretty nice collection of vintage gear. A lot of times recording studios also have instruments that you can't get the real versions of anymore. They have vintage synthesizers, they have vintage guitars, they have vintage drums. There's some things that recording studios have that aren't really available to the normal consumer or the home recording person. So yeah, I highly recommend you spend a day in a recording studio, try out a bunch of different microphones if you're a vocalist, give yourself a gift, go to a recording studio. They're wonderful. For our practical purposes, and because this is a computer music production course, I recommend that you do not spend too much money in a recording studio just because you're not going to get much done in a day. This process of establishing the computer as your instrument is going to take a lot of time as far as practice is concerned. Practice is something that you're not going to want to be doing in a recording studio paying that day rate. So do yourself a favor, allocate some time, go to the recording studio, then come back with the knowledge that you've learned and apply it to your home studio.